Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Permanent Secretary, Office of Environmental Services, and representatives of permanent secretaries of various MDA present here. We know sometimes it's difficult when, after having lunch or having tea break, the concentration is normally on the food rather on the lecture. Let's manage the two together. Yeah, we are here. We are talking about sanitation. We are not only talking about sanitation, we are talking about schools. Sometimes in 2017, an incident occurred in Lagos State and throughout the country that changed the focus of how we should treat our school. The Queen's College incident is one major case study that is in the mind of everybody. Just from a little water pollution led to the deaths of students. That should be a focal point to us that sanitation in school should be taken seriously. After this incident, as governments, as teachers, as parents, are we on the right path or are we not on the right path? These are pictures of schools taken after that incident. That is a food vendor with a wastewater close to it. You can imagine the situation. What happened in Queen's College is water pollution that led to the deaths. That is a food vendor right close to what? And untreated water. You can imagine what the students are facing. That is a school compound. Take it from me, whether it's a news that is online or a news that is sensation. Snake bites is one of the major incidents that normally occur in schools. Last week, there is one major incident in one school in the state, snake bites, due to what? Accumulation of materials, overgrown weeds in school. That is one school in Lagos State, accumulation of waste also. That's also a school in Lagos State. That is a well in a school in Lagos State. Whether the water is used to wet flower or they used to do anything, the children will play with the water and water vector diseases will get transferred. That's for us to know whether we are in the right path or we are not in the right path. The general environment where students grow up is very, very important to public learning. Not only for their growth, also to their mental development. So their environment shapes their Their learning. In 2005, federal government started what we call school sanitation policy. That means we have policy direction. We have focal things that we can use to make sanitation better in our school. But like the adage says, if you want to cheat any African man, put the information inside what? A textbook. We have a policy direction that can guide us to do something that is better. But as people, are we doing the right thing? So, the school sanitation policy, what is the objective of the school sanitation policy? To bring about positive change in hygiene behavior of school children, to protect school children to encourage provision of sanitary facilities in schools. So, which means the school sanitation policy has what we call key performance indicator. These are things school administrators, school principals, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Environment, these are things we should look out for in our schools to know whether we are up to what standard in terms of sanitation. Let's look at this key performance indicator. What about the external inspection? What surrounds the school? If you go to most of the public schools in Lagos State now, the approach to the school, you will not know whether it is a school or it's a market. You see people selling around the school. We can mention them. They are there for us to see. They are there for us to see. So the external surrounding distracts the students. And that is why it's one of the key performance indicators to know whether a school is meeting up with what? With sanitation. The internal inspection of the school, evidence of rat infestation, cracks. We have some of the walls that are, and these are places where insects and other animals hide. The roof and the ceiling, the walkways, how do we maintain all these things? These are things we should check out for. The classrooms, even to the extent that we have specific measurements by which each of the classrooms should be. The toilet accommodation, the bathroom for people in in the boarding schools. The kitchen, do we even do food handlers tests? I'll give you an example of a case. When students want to get to boarding school, it is the habit of the parents not to take the children to the health center for proper medical checkup. They will just go and get the 2,000 naira home, and the student will be sent to the public school. The principal and the school administrator will not know the health condition of the child. So when there is a case, they will not know that whether that child has an health condition, and they will be treating the child with the general thing. So these are things we should all properly look out for. How do we dispose our refuse? The water supply. Do we even test the water? Do we even wash the tanks? Sometimes the tanks will be there 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. We will not check. So these are things we ought to start looking out for. What about the sewage system? Some of the sewer tank will have been filled. Lagos being our nature, we are close to the Atlantic Ocean, and water is something that, so when the sewage gets filled, it gets into the compound. And you know, when it rains, we children, all of us, we've done it. They remove their shoe and they start running around. And these are school compound where fecal materials is flowing. These are things we hope to start checking and look out for. Next slide. Next slide, please. So, can we judge ourselves based on the key performance indicators set up by Ministry of Environment, by the federal government? Can we judge ourselves as policymakers? Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education. We do policy, but do we follow up with our policy direction? Policy administrators, the principals, the suburb, do we do these things that was set up as key performance indicator? The policy implementers, the teachers, the headmistress, the headmasters, do we look out for these? These are very, very important. Let's look at our school. Let's look at the key performance indicator and see, do my school meet up with the key performance indicator set up for school sanitation? Before Ministry of Environment comes for inspection, let me check myself. Let me check my school. Am I meeting up? Let's rate ourselves and see whether we are we are up to standard. So, but sanitation is not what the world is going into now. The world is going green. We want to move away from sanitation. We want to move into into green. And as Lagos State, we can't just stop with with sanitation. We want to move to where the world is moving into. Sustainable development is key. Sustainability is key. What do we teach our children? What do we put into their hands? Which means the development of a child is not only based on sanitation, it's based on other key factors that are within the environment. Before, we normally sit, every student sits and we face the teacher. Now, students don't sit and face the teachers. They sit in what? In circles. Which means group learning is more important than what? Individual learning. As that is important to learning, so also the environment you find yourself is very, very key and important to what? To learning. Color affects how children learn. That is why you see most schools now are painted in what? In multicolor. Where we were learning is blackboard. So any child that has color problem will not be able to see properly. So you can see that environment contributes a major factor to the learning and development of what? Of children. And where they learn also contributes a lot to it. That is why we are saying we are moving away from sanitation. We are moving away to what? Green classroom. We are moving away to what? Green learning. We are moving away to what? Green environment. And how do we do that? Next slide. How do we do that? Let's look at schools throughout the world that have moved into what? Green schools. We'll see example and see that it is not about money. In Africa here, we always talk about, oh, we don't have money to do this. Our budget is low. They are not releasing funds for us. No, we need to start using our what? Initiatives. Next slide. This is a green school in Bali, Indonesia. This school is made of what? Bamboo. The school is what? Bamboo. They use bamboo throughout. The lifespan of a bamboo can be 30, can be what? 40 years. And we have a lot of bamboo in most of our villages. And they will say there's no classroom. Government did not build classroom for the school, for the village. And there are bamboos in the village where it can be used as what? As a green school. Next slide. This is another school. You see, people always say, let's spend money. If you build a school that has a rainwater harvesting, that means you don't have to do a borehole. If you do a school that has a direct sunlight into the school, you don't have to buy bulb. That means you don't have to waste money on what? On energy. And that is what we want to transform into. That is when Ministry of Education, when we are planning to build our school, let's build our school green from the beginning so that we will not cost money. We don't have money for electricity. So that's why the classroom is dark. Let's incorporate sunlighting into the school while we are designing the school. Don't let us wait for what? For electricity. Next slide. This is a school with what? Container. This is a school with container. We have a lot of it in Nigeria here. We have a lot of it in Nigeria. This is a school. You can see the design of the school. There are a lot of greening. There are a lot of greening. That's just what we call what? Rainwater harvesting. There's rainwater harvesting. Flooding cannot occur in the school because the terrace is purely what? Green. Next slide. So, as Lagos, we have started moving into that direction now. So this is our attempt to making our school what? Green. This is a container school in Lagos, and we are doing that. So, in doing that, how do we do it? Do we do it good, or do we do it what? Just because we want to be green? No. Let us do it and make it what? Perfect. You can see the design we have in Lagos. Go back to that. The first. No. You can see this. The next one. You can see another design in another country. There is space for the children to what? To move around. The safety of the children were what? Incorporated into this design, unlike the other one. Next slide. So, what science is telling us? Science is telling us that the green space, especially, it is very, very important for children's what? Development. The green space is very, very important to children's development, and we should start incorporating this into the school design. Don't let us just design because we want to design. Let us design by putting greening into it, by putting what? Recycling activity into the school. The function, students also, the academic content and their ability to learn better determines the kind of, also determines the kind of environment they find themselves. A good environment allows the children to learn better. Their stimulation becomes more better if the environment is very, very good. Next slide. Early Childhood Institute also put it that children spend most of their working hours in an environment, and that also contributes to their what? To their development. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. So, what are the physical conditions that helps to optimize learning and what? Development. So, for a child to learn very well, the school size determines it. The churches are becoming bigger than our school. The churches are becoming bigger, the schools are becoming what? Smaller. And if you look at the old schools in Nigeria, you see that the school has a lot of what? Compound. They have gardens, they have everything. That means the children can cohabit, they can do a lot of activities within the school. But now, we just say, let's just build one school, one plot, they'll build the school. When you shock the children, their learning activity becomes what? Shock. But if the school size is big, they are able to what? Express themselves better. Lighting also contributes to what? How children absorb very well. So the classroom must be well lit. There must be proper lighting. And hardly, it's only problem if it's raining. We don't have night school again. So that means most of the schools are always during the day. So if we design the classroom properly, there will be proper penetration of what? Light. We don't need to spend money on what? On energy. Color choices. You get to some school, brown, dark brown. They paint wall black. When it's not a shrine. It would attract the children to come to school. So for the department that goes around to check schools, let's educate the owners of the schools that the color also contributes to the children learning ability. If you paint a school colorful, it will attract the children to what? To come. Temperature and ventilation. You get to some schools, the heat there is enough to distract the child from going to school. Noise control. So, like I said, Ministry of Environment, we need to partner with Ministry of Education. In locating schools, we should not locate schools close to market. Close to car park. If we have schools close to market and car park, we as government should try what? Doing a relocation plan. Because if you have a school close to market, I don't know how the children will what? Will absorb. If you have a school close to car park where they sell paraga, they sell everything, there's no way the children will not be what? Affected. Sanitation and cleaning ability. There was a study carried out by UNICEF that schools without proper toilets discourage, most especially young ladies, from going to what? To school. Because during their normal period, if the toilet is not good, the children will not be able to go to school. So if the exam falls to that period, they will just take time and just say, let me just go to school. But if they are discomfort, they will quickly want to what? Get out of the school. So these criteria should be part of the things we should be looking into. There are some things that we are not even seeing that affect the development of children. This is a study carried out by some researchers on schools in Lagos. They went around some schools in Lagos and collected dust, classroom dust, and they analyzed them in the lab. To our surprise, heavy metal such as lead, chromium, and cadmium were found in the soil samples in schools where we have our children. Lead has been known as one of the metals that affect child brain development. So if you have soil samples in schools with lead and children interact with soil, that means there is probability their brain development will be what? Will be affected. This is not only Lagos. Don't say it is Lagos. Next slide. This is a study in Pakistan also. This is a study in Pakistan also that they study schools in residential area, school in commercial area, schools in what? In industrial area. And they decided to look at the metal level. They also find out that this same thing that we have studied in Lagos is also happening in what? In Pakistan. So which means our children, the paramount health of our children should not be based on things we are seeing alone. It should also be based on things that we are not what? We are not seeing. Respiratory particulate matter affect children more than what? Than adults. Next slide. So, these are indoor environmental contaminants that the United States Environmental Protection Agency have identified that we found in what? In schools. Asbestos, lead, mercury, random. Do we test this thing in our school? We don't test it. We just send our children to school. May we not send our children to early grave? Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. So, what are we doing now? Ministry of Environment is proposing a new program. We want to make our school to be bold. We want to have a new vision for the state. Next slide. So, we are starting what we call green school concept. It's not new in the world. It's not new in the world. This thing started as far back as 2002. But you know, African countries, it is when the developed countries has finished the thing that we pick it up. The thing that started in 2002, we are starting it in what? 2022. How many years later? 20 years later. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide, don't worry. So, what is the characteristics of a green school? Before you can count your school as being green, these features needs to be what? In your school. Conservation of energy and natural resources. Improved indoor air quality. What is the kind of air quality the children are breathing in when they are in school? Those are things we need to start what? Considering. Remove of toxic materials. Yes, I want to paint my school. So somebody just finished training on paint. He's selling paint. Let me go and buy the paint. No. Make sure that the paint you are buying, the chemical they use for that paint, is it the chemical that is good for children? Some paints are just for outdoor alone. They are not for what? Indoor. So because we want to save money, we will use paints that are meant for outdoor. We will use it to paint what? Indoor. And the children will be what? Breathing in the what? The chemical. So if we are doing that, our school will not be what? Green. Encourage waste management effort. You see, I often mention some things that some boarding schools in Lagos State, should be able to make extra money. Imagine a boarding school in Lagos State with a population of 2,500 children. If one child take one pure water sachet in 1 hour, times 2,500, that is what? 2,500 what? Sachet. If you keep that for a whole term, you bail it and you sell it, is what? It's money. Food waste. We go for inspection and we see that some of they say they are not eating beans and we waste the food. It's not waste. You can turn them to compost and you can also what? Sell them. Encourage recycling, promotes habitat protection, and also what? Reduce things. We don't want to see waste from your school because in schools, there are no waste in schools. All the exam paper and everything, keep them. After 3 years, if there is no checking, that's okay, there's no checking, combine them together. There's a company in Ikeja that buy papers. You can sell the waste paper. And when you sell the waste paper, you make money for the school. You can add that to your running costs, and that will what? Will improve your what? Your revenue. So we are starting what we call Lagos Green School Program. The ministry is starting a pilot whereby we want to do what we call Lagos Green School Program. And our objective is convert 50% of our school to a green school in the next 10 years. We want to make our school green, livable, and sustainable for what? For the children. And how are we going to do that? Next slide. Next slide. So the pillar for the Green School project is strive to be toxic free. There are departments in the ministry. We have LASEPA, we have the research department in Office of Environmental Services. We'll be going to school to measure levels of toxic materials in school, to know whether our children are being exposed to to chemicals. Use of resource sustainably. How do we use the materials that are in school? How do we use them properly? We don't want say, okay, PSP are not coming to carry our waste. School should not have waste at all. You don't have any reason paying for PSP, because all the waste generated in school can be recycled. So why are you paying money for PSP? You're just wasting money. Separate everything and turn it to money. Learn. So we are going to start collaborating with the people who teach children. That is part of the project. Also, we want to reduce the environmental impact of schools. School also has environmental impact on communities. So how do we How do we reduce that? So we are going to do a training for the school proprietors, administrators. We are going to do a green handbook. There's going to be an awareness campaign. There's going to be green academy. We are going to set up a green academy during the summer holiday, probably have a green academy where the children can be There's going to be Project Green, and there's going to be a competition. Next year, we are going to do a competition for school. So we are going to have schools with overall best green performance, both senior and junior. Next slide. And we are going to have special award for schools that has resource efficiency. How are you able to recycle your material? There's going to be special award. We are going to give award to schools with innovation and creativity, schools with cleanliness and greening, and schools that involve community around them to do better things. This is what we have now, but we want to move to this. 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 Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.